So I left my Airbnb and ended up getting some Starbucks coffee because, as you all know, I have to have my coffee. I figured that would hold me over until I could get a proper meal. Where I'm staying, there's not a lot of options for breakfast, and the food options in general are very pricey. We're talking at least $30 for one meal. A lot of restaurants were $50 to $100 range, and I'm not gonna pay that much for food, as much as I love food. At least not for breakfast. So I ended up going ahead and heading toward the Rock and Roll Music Hall of Fame. The direction that I was coming, it takes you down to the water, which I am sitting at now. This is Lake Erie behind me. Once you kind of get down to the water, you run directly into the First Energy Stadium, which is where the Cleveland Browns play. If you keep following the water, there is the Science Museum, the Cleveland Science Museum, and then you have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And right next to the Hall of Fame is a little street where you could come down, and it takes you to where I am now, which is like a little pier. It's not really a pier, it's just dead ends here. I'm sorry about the noise. There is a boat right here that is getting worked on, and so that is the noise in the background. Hopefully you can hear me. But I decided to come down here and finish my coffee before going into the Hall of Fame. If I have time, I may even go over to the Science Museum, depending on how much those tickets cost. That actually looked really cool, so it'd be nice to check that out. I'm gonna swing the camera around and show you the view from the other direction, and you'll get a better idea of the layout of what I just described. So I am at kind of like a little park area here where there are plenty of people walking around, and then this is First Energy Stadium where the Cleveland Browns play. This kind of funky building that has the dome on the end is the Science Museum, and then there's the boat getting worked on. Behind the boat you'll see kind of a oddball shaped building. That is the Rock and Roll Music Hall of Fame, and there is a airport right over here. There's a lot of helicopters and airplanes that are taking off and going overhead. It is a little cold today and a little windy. My eyes are watering pretty bad with it, so if you see, I'm not crying, my eyes are watering. But this is a very nice area. If the boat wasn't making so much noise, it'd be very peaceful. It looks like the water comes in and there's like a little inland here, and you can walk around that. But yeah, it's pretty nice, and get to see the Cleveland skyline. And I'm going to finish what's left of my coffee in here and then head into the Rock and Roll Music Hall of Fame. I wanted to show you a little closer view of the back of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The architecture of the building is quite funky. Part of the building actually juts out over the rest of the building. It has some sharp angles to it. It's a very unique building to see. The front of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is a short walk, about a block or maybe two from Lake Erie, where I originally was. And when you come to the front entrance, you'll notice the iconic pyramid and the Long Live Rock sign in front. Just know that when you come to this area, there will be a good amount of tourists there taking pictures. I actually stood here for probably about 10 minutes. Everyone was asking everybody else to take pictures of them. I had asked a stranger to take a picture of me as well. And so if you want good pictures here, you might have to wait a while. And if you want someone to take a picture of you, just be generous and offer to take a picture of them as well. After taking tons of pictures, I finally went into the museum itself. When you go into the museum, you will first see a small little counter where people will be asking for tickets. You can purchase your tickets online before you get there. I didn't purchase mine online, so when I got there, she asked if I had a ticket. I told her no, and she instructed me that all I needed to do was scan the QR code that they had sitting there in the front, and then I could go ahead and purchase my tickets via their website, and it took me directly to the area where I can get my tickets. Once I got my ticket, I got my armband and headed into the museum. The museum is very funky inside as well. There's cars hanging from the ceiling. It's a great photo opportunity. You can tell there are multiple floors there. They do have a cafe where you can eat and have drinks. I decided not to do the cafe while I was in there, but instead just headed directly on into the museum. When you get into the museum, you actually start by going downstairs. When you get off the escalator onto the ground floor, you go through a long, winding hallway full of exhibits. There are tons of pictures on the wall, videos, and memorabilia from various artists. There's a very large section that has these individual windows with memorabilia in the windows. They're dedicated to the various types of genre of rock and roll. This is from blues to country, hip hop, punk, grunge, all types of music that are affiliated with rock and roll. There's even a very large section dedicated just to Elvis. There are videos playing, his guitars, and there's also an exhibition that was going on at this time that was dedicated to the Beatles. And as you go through, again, they do have videos, they have music playing, they have the guitars that belong to the Beatles. From there, you go through and find an exhibit that has different artists and some memorabilia dedicated to just that artist. It ranges from David Bowie to the Supremes, Heart, all the way to Alice Cooper. And it's a great place to take a lot of photos. When you go up to the next floor, they have a section called the Garage. In this section, you have a variety of instruments such as guitars, pianos, and drums that you can actually go and practice playing the various instruments there. They even have a section called Studio where you can book time for you and your friends to go in there and play music. They do have sheet music available, and let's listen. From the garage level, you can go up yet another level. I will say that while I was there, one of the escalators was not working. You do have the option of taking stairs or an elevator. If you have a stroller or if you are in a wheelchair, that option is available. Just know that you might have to wait a little bit because the elevators go to all of the floors and the museum gets quite busy. This next level is dedicated to the Hall of Fame itself. They have the Power of Rock Experience show that you can go see. I ended up not seeing this show due to time, but I would recommend seeing the show while you're there. And from this level, you can go up even another level. And when you go up the escalator on this level, you are greeted by a huge Pink Floyd display. If you are a fan of Pink Floyd, you know what the different icons mean, and it is another great opportunity to take pictures. The front side is quite decorated. You can walk through the display itself to the back side, and there is a little bit more on the back side. In this area is also a great view of the museum itself, and you can also see the Lake Erie area and the Cleveland skyline. It's another great place to take a lot of pictures. On this floor, they do have an auditorium where you can sit and watch some videos. When I got in there, the videos were honoring the show American Bandstand. So if you need a break from walking through the museum, maybe stop and watch some of the videos. There is yet another floor to go up. Now, I will say that when I got to the museum, I had a heavy coat on because it was cold outside. Once I got inside, I quickly took the coat off, and as I went up all of the various floors, I noticed that it was getting warmer and warmer, and then finally, when you get up to this floor, it is just straight up hot. The glass windows and the heat rising inside the building makes it very, very hot. So if you are susceptible to heat, be aware of that. On this floor, there are some more displays to explore, and the museum itself is pretty awesome. So I'm back at the Airbnb. It has been a fairly easy day. I ended up walking down to the Rock and Roll Music Hall of Fame and going through the building. It's actually, from the outside, it looks really small, but inside it's actually really big. It's like 6 floors. If I remember correctly, I believe it's $35 to go into the museum. To me, for museums, maybe I got a little spoiled with the free museums in Washington, D.C., but in general, to me, $35 for a museum is a little pricey, and that's the adult price. They do have different prices for, I believe, seniors and children, that sort of thing. And I think they even have like membership levels if you happen to be a musician and artist. But it's one of those museums, if you're going to go to it at least once in your life, you know, just pay the price and go to it. The museum's actually really cool. There's a lot of displays with various memorabilia, a lot of history. There's various movies and videos and documentaries that you can watch while you're there. They do have one theater that does a documentary about rock music. I believe it's like top of the hour, or no, excuse me, it's like 1:30, 2:30, 3:30, so forth and so on. I decided not to do that. I was getting really tired and I hadn't ate. I had my coffee, which held me over, which I knew it would, but I really wanted to get some food. When I left there, I looked up going to the Science Museum that was next door. I believe the tickets for that was like $22. I looked on the map, like they have a map of the interior of the museum. It seemed to be a little more kid-friendly instead of adult-friendly. So I decided not to do that. I sat outside the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum, looking on my phone, trying to find something to eat. Wasn't in the mood for anything in particular, just something that's going to basically hold me over the rest of the night. Right now it's 4:30. At about that time it was probably about 3:30, and I just wanted something that's going to hold me over and fill me up. But there's a lot of restaurants near the museums there that are really pricey, and they have very limited menus. Today is a Sunday, and so that could contribute to the limited menu, but it seemed like just on the different websites for the restaurants that the menus pretty much, that's kind of like their everyday menu. I did find one restaurant I wanted to go to. It just had basic American food, and I got there and turns out it was closed. It showed open online, but turns out it doesn't open until 4 o'clock, and at that time it was going to be a little bit of a wait. It was inside the DoubleTree Hilton Hotel, and I had to go inside the hotel lobby to ask if it was open or not. And I was asking the people that work there some suggestions for other restaurants, and they suggested one restaurant, and the gentleman there in the lobby that worked there, he was talking to me about it and giving me other options as well. And I was like, okay, I'll go to this one restaurant you've recommended. And he asked if I wanted to walk or take the shuttle. I'm sorry. I apologize. I kind of feel like a jerk because he was under the impression I was staying at that hotel and could use the shuttle to go wherever I needed to go. And I didn't tell him, no, I'm not staying there, but I ended up taking the shuttle to the restaurant. I feel really bad, but I did tip him. Whenever he dropped me off. The name of the restaurant is, I believe, I'm going to look it up on my phone. I wrote it down. Yours Truly Restaurant. And it's basic American food. They serve breakfast food all day, and they have things like burgers and sandwiches, a few entree items, I think like steak, that sort of thing. I ended up getting breakfast. It's protein heavy and it's gonna fill me up, and I could have used a second cup of coffee. So I ate there, and then I just walked through the downtown Cleveland area. There was a museum that I passed along the way, I believe, Soldiers and Sailors Museum. Didn't go in the museum, but got some really cool pictures. And now I am back at my Airbnb. Like I said, it's kind of early. It's 4:30. But I'm really, really tired. I got no sleep, and I'm worn out from this trip. So I'm going to basically stay in at the Airbnb tonight. I wanted to shoot this video, and I'm also going to shoot the video where I do a review of this Airbnb. And you definitely want to watch that. If you're curious about Airbnbs or renting spaces, yeah, you're going to want to watch this video because they're not all great. And I believe on this YouTube channel that I show you the good, the bad, and everything in between, because that's just how travel is. It's not glossed over. It's not always great. Things go wrong. Things can be bad. And I wanted to show you the bad that I'm staying in. I do want to give a shout out. I forgot to mention that this morning. When I was on the train yesterday,
there was a woman sitting in the seat in front of me, and I could see the reflection on the window of kind of where she was sitting. I could tell that she was working on a cross stitch project, which my map of the United States is cross stitch. And so I approached her, we got to talking, and she was just very lovely. Her name is Laurel. She is from New Mexico. Not sure where in New Mexico. She was there with her husband. I believe his name was Neil, and their son. And she said that they were going, no joke, all over the country to look at colleges for their son. They had spent like 2 weeks or something on multiple trains from New Mexico all the way up to Chicago to New York, down to DC, and back to Chicago. Yeah. But she was very lovely, and so if anyone knows Laurel in New Mexico, whose husband is Neil, and they have a son going to college, and she loves to cross stitch, shout out to her. But yeah, I will stay in for tonight. Tomorrow, I believe my checkout is at 11, and my flight doesn't leave until 5, but I will go ahead and check out of here, and I may go down the corner here and get some coffee, come back, pack my stuff, check out, and then head to the airport. I'll be in the airport a little bit early, but I can grab some food there and get my stuff situated and at least get rid of my luggage. But yeah, so that is how today has been, and I will try my best to shoot some video tomorrow before I take off. And I will see all of you in the next video. Bye!